My name is Natalie. I'm 25 years old, and today marked the start of my new job. It felt like a fresh beginning, something I had worked hard to achieve. I had landed the position of personal assistant, and my boss was the director of the company, Mr. Morris. Morris was 42 years old, a towering figure with a strong presence. He was well respected in the office, and people always spoke highly of him. He exuded confidence and success, his sharp suits making him stand out in any room. He was intelligent, driven, and had built his reputation over years of hard work. It wasn't just his professional success that made him admirable, but also his personal life. He was married with 2 children, a family that seemed perfect in every way. I knew the importance of this role. It was a big opportunity for me, a step up in my career. I had worked hard to secure this position, and I was determined to prove myself. My job involved handling his schedule, answering phone calls, and organizing important communications. It was a lot of responsibility, but I was ready for it. This job meant a lot to me, not just for career growth, but for the stability it would provide me in my personal life. At first, everything went smoothly. I focused on my tasks, and Morris was professional, though I noticed something strange. There were times when I would walk past his office, and his gaze would linger on me. I didn't think much of it at first. Maybe he was just making sure I was doing my work, or perhaps it was just me being paranoid. After all, he was my boss, and I was the new hire. Maybe I was just adjusting to the pressure of my new role. But then, it happened one afternoon. I had some documents in hand and walked into his office to deliver them. Morris was standing by his desk, and as I approached, he came closer to me. Too close. He stood just a bit too close for comfort, and before I could react, his hand brushed mine. I froze in place. My heart raced. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't speak. I was shocked, confused, and scared all at once. He looked at me, his eyes soft, and for a moment, I thought I saw a smile on his lips. It wasn't a warm smile. It was something else. It felt like there was an underlying meaning behind it. My hand still tingled from his touch. I wanted to step back, to say something, but the words caught in my throat. I stood there, still, unsure of what to do next. My mind raced with thoughts about my job, my future, and the need to keep things smooth. I couldn't afford to lose this opportunity. Morris seemed to realize what he had done, as if he had crossed some invisible boundary. He quickly took the papers from me and said nothing more. I excused myself and left his office, my heart still pounding in my chest. But what did it mean? Was this something I had misunderstood? Was I overreacting? As the days went by, things started to feel different. His gaze became more intense. Every time I passed his office, I felt his eyes following me. It wasn't like before. It was unsettling. I tried to ignore it, to tell myself that it was nothing, but the feeling of discomfort wouldn't go away. One evening, as the office started to empty out, Morris approached me at my desk. I was getting ready to leave for the day when he stood very close to me. His presence was overwhelming. He asked me, Natalie, do you have any plans for tonight? Let's have dinner. Just you and me." My hands trembled as I searched for an excuse. "Oh, Mr. Morris, I have plans tonight," I said, hoping he would understand. But he didn't let up. He smiled and insisted, "It's important. We have to discuss some work matters. It's polite to accept your boss's invitation. I didn't want to upset him. I couldn't afford to. My job meant everything to me. So I reluctantly agreed, and we went to a nice restaurant. But to my surprise, we didn't discuss work. The evening was filled with awkward conversation, and Morris didn't talk about anything business-related. Instead, he complimented me, telling me I was special, beautiful, and smart. I didn't know how to respond. It felt like he was saying these things to make me feel good. But something in his tone made it feel wrong. And then he dropped the bombshell. "Natalie," he said, his voice lowering, "I want you to be my lover. No one will ever know. It will be our secret." My stomach turned. My mind screamed, "No!" I had no words. This couldn't be real. My boss, a married man, was asking me to be his lover. My heart raced as I fought to keep my emotions in check. "No, Mr. Morris," I finally managed to say. "I can't do that. I'm your personal assistant. This is wrong." His face fell. The warm smile he had earlier was gone, replaced by a cold, hard expression. For the rest of the dinner, we didn't talk. The evening ended with an uncomfortable silence, and he drove me home without a word. As I sat in the car, my mind was a whirlwind of confusion and fear. What would tomorrow bring? Would this change everything? The next day, everything changed. When I walked into the office, I could feel the difference. It wasn't just the usual busyness of work. It was the weight of the tension in the air. Morris wasn't the same. He didn't greet me like he usually did. Instead, he gave me a cold stare as he passed by. I felt the weight of his eyes on me all morning. It was as if he had put me in a different category, one that I didn't belong in. The tasks he gave me started piling up. I was no longer just managing his calendar and emails. Now, I was being given extra work, extra assignments that I couldn't keep up with. I was staying late every day just to get everything done. But the harder I worked, the more difficult things became. Every mistake, no matter how small, was criticized. Every action, every decision I made was scrutinized. One afternoon, I made a simple error, putting a file in the wrong place. It was nothing major, but when Morris noticed, he didn't let it go. He called my name sharply, and before I could even explain, he said, "Natalie, this is unacceptable. You need to do better." The office fell silent. All eyes were on me. My face burned with embarrassment. My hands trembled as I tried to stay composed. I wanted to disappear. I wanted to crawl into a hole and never come out. This wasn't the job I had signed up for. This wasn't the atmosphere I had imagined when I first stepped into the office. It wasn't just the insults that hurt. It was the constant reminder that I had turned him down. I had rejected his offer, and now he was making me pay for it. He was using his power to make my life miserable. Every day, it felt like I was walking on eggshells, afraid to make a mistake, afraid of what he would say next. One day, it got worse. I had made a small mistake in a report, and Morris called me out in front of the entire team during a meeting. He made me stand up and announced, "Natalie needs to pay more attention. This is a simple task, and yet she can't get it right." My heart dropped to my stomach. I wanted to vanish. The shame I felt in that moment was unbearable. Everyone's eyes were on me, and I couldn't escape. But that wasn't all. After the meeting, Morris pulled me aside. His tone was icy. "You should reconsider my offer," he said. "Life could be much easier for you here if you just did what I asked." I knew what he meant. He was punishing me for saying no. He was trying to break me, to make me regret my decision. And it worked. I felt trapped. I couldn't leave. I needed this job. I needed the paycheck. But every day it felt like I was losing a piece of myself. I started doubting everything. Was this my fault? Had I made a mistake by rejecting him? Should I have just accepted his offer and avoided all this? The constant stress and anxiety made it hard to focus. I couldn't concentrate on my work anymore. All I could think about was the way he looked at me, the way he made me feel small and insignificant. One night, as I stayed late to finish a report, I glanced over at Morris's desk. There, sitting in a frame, was a photo of his family. His wife and 2 children smiled happily in the picture, and for a moment, I felt a pang of guilt. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about his family. I couldn't stay silent. I had to tell her. I found the number of his wife in his emergency contacts, and without thinking, I dialed it. My hands shook as I waited for her to answer. When she picked up, I introduced myself and told her I needed to talk. She agreed to meet me, and we arranged to meet the following evening at a small cafe. When I saw her, she was composed but wary. I explained everything. I told her about the way Morris had touched my hand, the dinner he had invited me to, and how he had asked me to be his lover. I told her how he had treated me differently after I rejected him. As I spoke, I saw her face change. Her expression grew hard. Her eyes filled with anger. But to my surprise, her anger wasn't directed at her husband. It was directed at me. "You're trying to steal my husband," she shouted, her voice rising. "You want to break my family." I was stunned. I tried to explain that I wasn't trying to take her husband. I just wanted to protect myself, to make sure he didn't do this to anyone else. But before I could finish, she raised her hand and slapped me across the face. The pain was sharp, and for a moment, I couldn't breathe. I stood there, frozen, as the tears welled up in my eyes. I hadn't expected this. I hadn't expected to be blamed for everything. I ran out of the cafe, my heart racing, my face burning with shame. I had tried to do the right thing, but it had only made everything worse. I couldn't believe what had just happened. The next day, I couldn't take it anymore. I was done being silent. It was time for the truth to come out. That morning, I walked into the office with a new sense of determination. I had made up my mind. I wasn't going to let Morris control me anymore. I wasn't going to let him ruin my life. It was time for everyone to know the truth. The team was gathering in the conference room for the usual morning meeting. Morris was already seated at the head of the table, his posture confident as always. But today, I wasn't afraid. I wasn't going to shrink in his presence. As everyone settled into their seats, I stood up and walked to the center of the room. All eyes turned to me. "I have something important to say," I started, my voice steady but firm. "Everyone needs to know the real Morris." I paused for a moment, making sure everyone was listening. The room was silent. "Morris, our boss, has been treating me in ways that are not acceptable," I continued. "He touched my hand without my consent. He asked me to have dinner with him, and then he asked me to be his lover, his secret lover." I felt a rush of emotions, fear, anger, relief, all mixed together. But I knew I had to keep going. I couldn't stop now. When I turned him down, he made my work life miserable. He gave me impossible tasks, criticized me for every small mistake, and humiliated me in front of everyone. He used his position to punish me for saying no, I said, my voice growing stronger. And after everything that happened, I decided to tell his wife. But when I did, she blamed me. She slapped me across the face and called me a homewrecker. I looked at Morris as I finished. His face had turned red with anger. His eyes were cold, like I had crossed some invisible line. "You're finished here," he shouted, his voice low and threatening. "Your career is over." With that, he turned and stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind him. The room was still. I stood there, heart racing, but I felt a sense of freedom wash over me. I had told the truth. No one could silence me anymore. After the meeting, things started to change. Employees began coming forward, sharing their own stories about how Morris had treated them. It turned out that I wasn't the only one. Many others had faced the same abuse, the same power games. The company's board launched an investigation. They dug through emails, messages, and office records. They interviewed everyone involved, and slowly the evidence began to mount. It didn't take long before they had enough to make their decision. Morris was fired. His reign of control was over. His wife, heartbroken and betrayed, decided to leave him. She couldn't stay with a man who had treated others this way. Morris lost everything: his job, his reputation, his family. He had brought it all upon himself. For me, things slowly started to get better. The weight that had been on my shoulders for so long lifted. I still had my job, and I had learned a valuable lesson. I had stood up for myself, and in doing so, I had reclaimed my power. As the weeks went by, I continued to work hard and focus on my career. I felt a renewed sense of hope for the future. This was my life, and no one would ever take away my peace again. If you found my story helpful or inspiring, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more content. You can't let anyone define your worth. Stand up for yourself, and the truth will always prevail.